Hello everyone, we are coming into this session about the details of Gestalt Principles of Visual Perception. I know we have mentioned it before also, but here today we will be learning in detail about how this Gestalt principle works for visual perception. Okay. So, coming into the introduction part of it, why was this Gestalt principle introduced? It was introduced, or there are certain principles which is being followed, which makes the human being understand how the visual representation looks like and how we have a tendency of interacting or relating each presentations in a similar manner. So, Gestalt principles are principles or laws of human perception that basically describes how human groups similar elements, recognizes patterns and simplify the complex images when we see an object. So, the designer here basically uses the principles to organize content on the websites or definitely the other interfaces. So, it is aesthetically pleasing and easier to understand. Now, the Gestalt's principles are basically an essential part of an visual design, and there are more than 10 overlapping principles. So, we have the principles of proximity here. First one, so you can see this figure here, this one, it is all same, okay, and you see this one, this is also same. But when we see into the figure, as far as the human eye takes us, we will try to group this into one group and we will try to group this into the other. So, basically we are seeing this image here as two groups. Okay. So, this is how the principles of proximity works. The principle of proximity states that things that are close together appears to be more related than things that are spaced further apart. So, proximity is so powerful that it overrides the similarity of color, shape and other factors that might differentiate a group of objects. So, no matter whatever shapes are included, if we are able to see it in this way, definitely we will find it in two different groups. That is how the tendency of human eye works. Now, coming to the principles of similarity, you can look at this figure. The principle of similarity here states that when things appear to be similar to each other, we group them together, and we also tend to think that they have the same function. For instance, here in this image, there are two separate and two distinct groups shaped on based on the shape. So, the shapes here are triangles and the circle. So, when you normally see it, yes, you will try to involve this, right, in one form, or we tend to say this is okay, one way of grouping, and yes, this is the other way of grouping it. So, this is a normal tendency of a human eye, and this is how the principle of similarity works. Now, next comes the principle of enclosure. The Gestalt's principle of enclosure is basically, it points out that any form of visual enclosure causes us to see the enclosed objects of a group. The arrangement of two sets of circles here in this figure is exactly the same, yet the differing enclosure directs us to group the circles in different ways. So, you can see this is one grouping, and as a tendency we might even group this as one. So, this is how the prohibition works. This principle is exhibited frequently in the use of in the case of borders and fillings based on the coloring, shading, etc. So, here also you can see this entire figure was enclosed in one group, then it was again divided for no reason, then again you are enclosing it in this way. So, this is how the principle of enclosure works. You basically, your eye tries to close certain things. Okay, this can be one group, you group it in one way, oh this is other one. So, this is the figure which shows the principle of enclosure. Now, coming to the principle of closure. The principle of closure here states that when we look at a complex arrangement of visual elements, we tend to look for a single and recognizable pattern. In other words, when we see an image, we are basically filling the missing parts. Okay, your brain gets activated to fill in the blanks to complete a recognizable pattern. Now, for example, this figure, when we see it, it is an automatic tendency to make it feel as a rectangle. So, even if there is a blank, we will try to fill it in the form of a rectangle. So, this is how the human eye works. The same way, this is an oval or a circle, you can say. Our eye will basically fill in the blanks and make it a circle. So, this is about the principle of closure. Now, principle of continuity. The principle of continuity states that the elements that are arranged in a line or a curve are perceived to be more related than the elements not in the line or a curve. So, you can see this figure here. We will not join it in this way, because we feel that yes, the black dots are going in this way and the red is going this way only. So, this is an automatic tendency. We will never get into a conclusion that yes, this could be different or it might not have any relation. So, this is what the principle of continuity states. The red dots in the curved line seem to be more similar or more related to the black dots of the curved line than the red dots. So, that is why there is a straight horizontal line. That is because our eye naturally follows the line or a curve, making continuation on a stronger signal of relatedness, that is than the similarity of color. So, this is the principle of continuity. Now, principle of connection. So, when we perceive objects that are connected in some way, with the help of a line or something, we group it in the same group. Even though the circles are nearer to one another vertically than horizontally, the lines that connect them create a clear perception of two horizontal attached pairs. For example, here this dot and this dot, we tend to connect it in this way. We will never tend to connect it in this way. So, this is again a human eye perception playing around with the principle of connection. Now, applying the principles of visual perception to the dashboard design, basically there are two greatest challenges here that we are facing in the case of dashboard design. First one is to make the most important data stand out from the rest. Basically, you are highlighting the most important data. Next one is to arrange what is often a great deal of disparate information in a way that makes sense, giving it a meaning and support its efficient perception. There might be certain cases where some users might feel that that data is not an important data, but the person who designs a dashboard might feel it to say that yes, this particular data is important. So, he might try to put that data in such a way that it stands out, or it might be more informative than the remaining data. So, these are certain challenges that we face when we usually design a dashboard with the help of visual perception. So, with this I conclude this session. Thank you so much.